Welcome to the Dreamlands. We're back with round one from the 2 versus 2 tournament in Homeworld Deserts of Kharak that happened just over a week ago, and we are right about to jump into match 2. So once again, I am joined by Majiir Paktu as my co-caster. How's it going, man?
Greetings.
All right, so match 2 is going to be Descara and Ewok versus Jostein, Cena, and Dryson. And the first game is going to take place on Dune C. Pretty awesome, a map that I have not cast in quite some time. And it looks like
same.
we've got a mirror match here. We've got Soban and Galcian on both sides.
Yes, this is going to be great. Two very different factions, and it's going to be interesting to see how they complement each other.
Very, very true. All right, I am paused at 29:55.
I'm here as well. Do you want to do a countdown?
Absolutely.
All right,
So-
3, 2, 1, go.
Going. So I will introduce Team 1, and then Majiir will introduce Team 2, and we will jump into the action. So spawning on the south side of Dune C, we are going to have Descara playing as the blue-on-blue Galcian. And I gotta say, this is pretty damn cool. I have never ever seen Descara play as the Galcian. So pretty interesting to see what he brings to the table. His ally spawning directly to his right, it is going to be Ewok, playing as the black and white Soban.
And on the other side of the map, we have Jostein Cena in a purple and yellow Galcian carrier, which is going to stand out in the desert, and his teammate Dryson in a white and white Soban carrier, also going to stand out in the desert. And Ewok is a player I haven't seen before. Have you? Or sorry, Dryson isn't. Neither is Ewok.
Yeah, neither of them are familiar with me at all, so this should be pretty cool. I have played with Jostein Cena quite a few times, and of course, if you follow Deserts of Kharak competitive games in any capacity, you are definitely going to be familiar with Descara, one of the top players in the game. He's a guy who is definitely on A-Games level, so super excited to see this. Now, what have we got coming up for tech? It looks like Descara is almost halfway done Production Cruiser Refinery mode, just started Sand Skimmer Fabrication, saturated his starting location and his long-hauling resources from his first expansion site. So a very economic-focused opener from Descara. And as far as Ewok is concerned, he just got a support cruiser on the field. So an economic opener from both players on Team 1. That's pretty interesting.
On the other side of the map, we have more of a strike craft open. Some sand skimmers already coming out for Jostein Cena, and LAVs already coming out for Dryson. And no tech so far. Choice for Dryson here, AAVs or railguns. Both players just mining off of their first resource point. So it's interesting that we've got a little bit of a rush opening here from the team with the bright colors, but they're not moving their units forward yet.
Yeah, and it's interesting to note that Jostein Cena doesn't have his production cruiser moving out onto the map either. So they're either gearing up for a little bit of a late rush, or they're worried about early aggression from their opponents, and they just want to get some units onto the field.
Yeah, playing defensively can definitely work, and they may be a little bit intimidated by the names in this game. In particular, Descara's name. That's a really nice looking carrier he's got, by the way, that blue on blue.
Oh, it looks awesome. Now, the thing that concerns me is that they have all these units on the field, but they're not pushing, and they're just allowing Team 1 to expand their economy uncontested. And so as it stands right now, Team 1 has a drastic advantage in terms of economy.
They are really playing really defensively here on Team 2, and one thing I noticed is that the base runner belonging to Dryson that picked up an artifact just now isn't moving towards the extraction zone. It has a move order right back to the carrier.
Oh, weird. Yeah, so they're super apprehensive at this stage in the game, which definitely can happen if you're a less experienced player going up against a top tier player. It kind of like half the time in those situations, you basically defeat yourself by being super apprehensive. I know I've done that.
Yeah, you really have
times.
to realize that as good as the other players are, oftentimes they're only just a little bit better, and it's just that little edge that they have over you that allows them to win. So it's not like you have to run away from every fight.
Quite right. That's so true. Now, we do have AAVs on the field from Ewok, and Ewok himself is also going to grab an artifact. Now, they are going straight for the extraction zone, which I like to see.
Yeah, and Dryson did finally change his base runner's trajectory there, guarding it with a whole circle of LAVs, which is interesting, and still no... Actually, no, that's not quite right. Just now, AAV fabrication coming up for Dryson, so in another 35 seconds or so, that'll be done. So they seem to be very worried about Strikecraft.
Indeed. And there's already a single heavy railgun, or an assault railgun, pardon me, on the field for Descara, so he's got some skimmers and some assault railguns. Ewok has a bunch of AAVs. In total now 4 on the field, and it looks like we have a small engagement here starting through mid. Just a couple of sand skimmers being cleaned up by these LAVs, or by these skimmers, pardon me.
And another couple of LAVs going to go down to AAVs here, so just a few losses on each side. Nothing really meaningful yet.
Yeah, very true. But I think that it's going to come down to what kind of tech choice Team 2 makes here, because their Strikecraft are not going to be effective from this point onwards, at least through the majority of the middle of the map, because we do have armored assault vehicles. They have no upgrades yet, and we've got assault railguns with unarmor upgrades, so that's going to pretty much just hard counter the unit composition that Team 2 has so far.
Team 2 is changing it up a little bit. It looked like Dryson has not yet built any AAVs, but Jostein Cena does have a couple of heavy railguns coming out now. So those will do a good job if they can get the line of sight over these big dudes.
Yeah, that's actually totally the right answer. When you see your opponent having assault rails or AAVs or both, heavy railguns are definitely going to hard counter that, provided you can get, like Majiir said, line of sight, and of course, provided you can keep the distance between your opponent and yourself. And this can be a really difficult thing to accomplish on this map, because as we're seeing, Ewok and Descara have all of their units basically camping on this enormous dune in the center of the map. And if they don't get dislodged, it can be pretty much impossible for the opposing team to push up into this.
Yeah, this dune is a very hard one to approach because you can sit up top with railguns and you get the high ground advantage, you get a lot of line of sight, but also because there are variations in the dunes, you can sit a sand skimmer or an AAV or another scout further down the dune and gain line of sight for your railguns while not actually being in range of other units from the enemy team. So with all these railguns in this position like this, there's very little that can be done unless Team 2 tries to flank around and catch some of these railguns off guard or catch some of the resource positions off guard.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought that Jostein Cena was going to go for a flanking move. He had moved his group of sand skimmers off to the left flank, and it looked like he was going to make a move on the assault railguns of Descara, but then he kind of like had a little bit of a moment of apprehension and pulled back.
Instead, Dryson is bringing his escorts off of his base runner, those LAVs, and they're going to come up and hit the assault railgun, or excuse me, the railguns, the spawn railguns of Ewok. They're going to get tangled in with the assault railguns of Descara and the AAVs of Ewok and get cleaned up. Jostein's units, meanwhile, are sort of flirting around here, hitting a scanner, but flirting around with Descara's sand skimmers. And
yeah, now
the
there's
railguns from Jostein, the heavy railguns here, firing up onto the dune, hitting an AAV, but not doing a great deal of damage because they are so far away and so far down.
True. Now he was able to clean one up and do about half damage to the second one, so a decent move. But at this point, I think that the economic advantage of Team 1 is really starting to show. Their Descara's mining on 3 resource locations fully, Ewok on 2, and they have just got such an overwhelming number of units right now camping on the top of this dune that it's going to be really, really difficult, if not impossible, for the forces of Team 2 to push up into this, at least with their current numbers and composition.
Yeah, and I think Team 2 has a bit of an experience gap in this game. We can see that Dryson here is mining off of 2 locations, but doesn't have a support cruiser out. And so my guess is he's a newer player who isn't as experienced in PvP and therefore isn't familiar with a lot of the common plays that you would normally play here. So it looks like Jostein is making the right picks, Dryson even making the right picks given the units that he's seen, but just a little bit of inexperience as far as being able to go through the normal flow of a game.
Absolutely, and this actually can be a really, really difficult map to play on, unless you're super comfortable with the game and super familiar with all of the varieties in terrain and positioning that you can find on this map. So typically, like when I first started playing this game, I hated this map with a passion, and it's only recently that I've actually started to really appreciate it and enjoy games on it. So certainly can't fault Team 2. They are holding their own fairly well against a much more experienced team for sure.
Yeah, this is a difficult map. You can often find yourselves in a standoff, especially on the top of the dune, where two players are staring at each other but can't actually shoot at each other because of that pointy dune. Looks like that's not happening this game, and mostly there's just a lot of fighting on the side slope. Still a lot of artifact capping going on both sides. Dryson on Team 2 has been pretty diligently moving his base runner around, but now he's probably going to find himself challenged and not able to take the artifact that he's heading towards. It's guarded by railguns and AVs.
Yeah, so surprisingly, Team 2 actually is up. They're in the lead in terms of artifacts anyway. It's a 2-1 right now. However, that's only going to last for about another second because Team 1 just delivered their second artifact to tie it up for 2-all, and they have a third that is moments away, so it looks like Team 2 is about to swing the artifact count in their favor with a 3-2.
And take a quick look at the carrier power. We can see that Dryson has 5 available carrier power because he has captured both of the artifacts for Team 2. Ewok, meanwhile, has 8 carrier power, and Descara has quite a bit of carrier power as well, about 5, 8, 7 carrier power, something like that. And I'm not sure who got the research tech for that and who just got it through artifacts, but it's looking like we're seeing some pretty high-powered carriers on the field already.
Yeah, we are, and Descara has actually moved his carrier right onto Team 2's doorstep. He has researched power level 3, so that combined with whatever artifacts he was able to grab gives his carrier a fairly significant combat bonuses, and it can be pretty damn scary, especially to stuff like strikecraft. These strikecraft do not want to get anywhere near this carrier. It will eat them for breakfast.
Absolutely. We see some aircraft coming in for Descara to try and take care of these railguns from Jostein Cena. That's going to do a good job because there's not much AA on the field aside from production cruisers, which is enough to do a bit of damage. One aircraft actually is going to go down right now.
Yeah, and a second one shortly thereafter. Now, Descara wants to get this final aircraft the hell out of the sky because it actually has got a ton of veterancy now. And dangerously close to death.
Skirmishing going on here, and seems like Descara is trying to poke in at the economy and home base of Jostein here, and didn't really dislodge him from his resource position quite yet, but did do a lot of damage. A lot of railguns did go down, and I think what we're seeing here is that Team 1 is just holding their position until they can get absolutely crippling dominating force, and that's going to happen very quickly.
Yeah, it's starting to spiral out of control for sure, and at this point they have absolute map control. They have control of their extraction zone, so it's pretty much up to them how they want to play it. And they've got a 4th artifact, which is going in for the drop-off. It'll be there in about a minute and a half or so. So they will be currently sitting at a 4-2. They could pretty easily just camp out here, grab 2 more artifacts, and drop them off for the win. But they're starting to have basically a giant snowball of units, which is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And like, look at this number of heavy railguns and assault railguns from Descara here, backed up by a pretty solid line of AAVs and railguns from Ewok. I don't know, other than some kind of crazy carrier push or a mass air switch, I don't see them getting dislodged anytime soon, to be honest.
Yeah, and even with an air switch, there is a Galcian carrier just off of their main resource point with 6 fighters in it from Descara. And Galcian fighters Galcian interceptors, are very good at anti-aircraft work, and so Dryson really has no business even building aircraft. And if Jostein built aircraft, he'd have to be going toe-to-toe with Descara's aircraft micro, which is very, very strong.
Absolutely. Now it looks like Dryson is making a desperation push with his carrier, and that is not something he wants to do. The Soban carrier is not effective in combat, as you're seeing. It's actually getting focused down, and it goes down in like 20 seconds of focus fire from all of these railguns. So Dryson with a desperation move that does not pay off, sadly.
Yeah, that's definitely not the carrier you want to be doing that move with, and frankly, any carrier I'm not sure you want to do that move with against that many railguns. So now, Jostein is left solo because Dryson was a Soban player. He doesn't have any production cruisers left around to be building any units with. So I'm guessing that Jostein recognizes his peril and is just going to allow that to happen.
Yeah, not much choice, I don't think he has, to be honest with you. I mean, look at these railguns pouring down fire from the top of this dune. Being scouted here by these sand skimmers, just screening for the massive number of railguns up on the dune, and they're just gonna absolutely crap on everything that comes out of these production cruisers. Meanwhile, Descara's carrier is coming around the flank, and it is just gonna wreck everything. This game is over. The win is definitely going to go to Descara and Ewok.
I do want to point out that Jostein has, until the end, continued to build the right unit counters. He had 2 missile ships that went down to Descara's heavy railguns. So he didn't have the positioning, he didn't have the ability to guard those, but that's the right unit choice. If you have several missile ships right by a carrier that is bringing out a whole lot of aircraft, that's how you can cause a whole lot of economic damage on an enemy, because they're relying on those aircraft, they've invested in those aircraft, and you can just take them away just like that.
Absolutely, and I also noticed he had a pretty big amount of veterancy on his production cruisers as well, so that means they were shooting down aircraft for quite some time. They were both like two points away from max rank.
I didn't even know you could get veterancy on a production cruiser.
What? Really?
I've never seen that. I guess I don't pay attention to that.
Wow, yeah, it's actually obscenely good. Production cruisers get super tanky and insanely good at AA once they get some veterancy.
Huh, well, the more you know.
Yeah, man. All right, so game 1 is going to go to Descara and Ewok. So well played to all players. Some very good unit choices from both sides. And of course, the gap in that game, just as Majiir had mentioned previously, just came down to a matter of experience. And that was all, but well played to both teams. We're just about to jump into match 2 now. This is going to be on the Boneyard, so I'm just loading into the replay now. And I'm going to be watching from Ewok's perspective in this game.
And I'll be watching Jostein in his purple and yellow. It's a great color scheme.
It is pretty bright.
Okay, and I'm now paused at 55.
I am also paused at 55.
Okay, we'll start the countdown. 3, 2, 1, go.
Here we go. Same as before, I'm going to introduce Team 1, and Majiir will introduce Team 2, and then we'll jump right into the action. Now, spawning on the south side of the Boneyard once again, bringing Team 1 to the lead is going to be Descara, playing as the blue-on-blue Galcian. And once again, his ally spawning directly to his left. Also playing as the black and white Soban once again, it is going to be Ewok.
And in the north, I'm watching Jostein Cena in the yellow and purple. It's really hard to tell in the night map here, as the Galcian, and Dryson as the white Soban, who's already moved out his carrier a bit, hasn't built a support cruiser yet, but has moved his carrier to another expansion point here. So that's an interesting early move, and I wonder what he's doing there. It looks like maybe trying to provide cover for an artifact grab.
Well, yeah, that could be totally right. Now, this is something I just want to comment on because I've seen newer players do this a lot. They kind of just position their carrier halfway in between their starting location and their first wreck bulkhead here. And I guess the idea is to mine off of 2 resource locations with only your carrier, but if you're a new player and you're watching this, this is a move that you don't want to do. This hurts your economy very, very badly because as you can see, your starting salvagers have to travel all this way from your starting location to your carrier just to drop off any resources. So I just wanted to briefly mention that. No, I'm not trying to disparage Dryson whatsoever, but I just see a lot of new players do that, and that's something you want to avoid. Either get a support cruiser right away or just leave your carrier there. And if you're feeling fancy, I've kind of detailed this move a little bit in a previous video. Just put the backside of your carrier right on top of the resources and point the front towards your wreck bulkhead, and that'll allow you to mine just a little bit more efficiently.
Yeah, remote mining is a valid tactic when you already are locally mining on one pocket, especially the main pocket that has 2 different CU deposits. And you can get fancy with your Knef by using the speed boost in order to get faster remote mining and positioning your carrier and things like that. But it's definitely something you want to do if you're really trying to just get the most resources you can, not trying to have a compromise between those two.
Absolutely. Now it looks like Team 2 is actually in a lot of trouble right now. We have the dreaded double production cruiser build coming out from Descara. So he's got 2 production cruisers moving out across the field. He is producing sand skimmers from both of them, and Ewok is following that up with an AAV rush, by the looks of it.
And for anybody watching this thinking, oh man, now, Team 2 is just absolutely doomed, there is a narrow window here during which Dryson, all on his own, can actually take this and turn it into a victory. And that window is, if you can kill just a few sand skimmers and build out more LAVs, then you can overwhelm the production capabilities of Descara. As I say this, he's popping out a few assault ships, which are going to change that equation a little bit. But if you see somebody bringing just sand skimmers at you, just remember that as Coalition, you build LAVs faster than the Galaxian can build sand skimmers. And if you can just pop off those sand skimmers as they're coming out of the production cruisers, you can turn that fight into your favor.
Yeah, very true. Or else, if you're playing as Coalition, as soon as you scout this, just get the base runner inventory. And when that's half done, build a base runner and pop a turret immediately out and leave that behind your carrier. You should be able to hold this. Now, I want to comment on what Jostein Cena's doing. He had the right idea here. If you see this coming at you, you want to use your carrier to block the production cruisers from getting behind your lines like they've got right here. Because if you're in this position, your economy is dead. It's toast. So Jostein had the right idea, though. Move your carrier out and use it to kind of block and disrupt the enemy formation from their assault ships and production cruisers. At this point, I think Team 2 is in a lot of trouble, though.
Yeah, they have resourcing disrupted sort of by Dryson's own choice of positioning, and then further by this attack from Descara. And I noted that the assault ships coming out from Descara totally changed the equation, and that's because unless you have railguns, there's really not much you can do early against an assault ship rush. You really need railguns to be able to apply damage to them. AAVs aren't going to be able to do enough damage. They have too much armor to be taken out by a group of LAVs or sand skimmers, and they're very good at killing LAVs and sand skimmers. And they also do incredible damage against clustered units like salvagers. You can see that as these units are hitting the salvagers of Jostein Cena, they're doing a lot of AoE damage and taking out multiple salvagers with one hit.
Yeah, Jostein Cena's about to lose his production cruiser. He's lost pretty much all of his salvagers now. And Descara's production cruisers are sitting on top of all of the salvagers that Dryson had mining, and those are all about to disappear. So Team 2's economy is toast. This game is definitely over. There's actually nothing they can do to come back from this. Now, there are things really you can do to defend against this, like we've been discussing, but in order to do them, you have to scout this build. If you're playing against a Knef or Galaxian player, you have to scout them, because there are certain things that you need to do once you scout a build like this in order to hold it effectively. However, if you do hold it effectively, you can quite easily turn it into an advantage. So, kind of like most rush builds, it's a risk with a big payoff.
And for Galaxian and Knef players in particular, it's very risky because they have the potential to lose their production cruiser. It's very expensive to replace, and if they do lose it, it sets them behind because they can't produce units, and unit production on Galaxian and Knef factions is very slow. So if you can, if somebody's sand skimmer rushing you and you can just overwhelm their production and get to the point where every time a sand skimmer comes out, you just immediately kill it, that lets you apply damage to their production cruiser and kill it. If you see an assault ship rush and you bring out railguns and you can take out their assault ships, well, now what are they going to do? They don't have railgun tech yet, right? They don't have enough sand skimmers to be able to take out your railguns, and you can focus down their production cruiser. So with double production cruiser rush, the risk is a little mitigated because they might lose one production cruiser and retreat with the other and still be okay. But it's also, if they lose both, they're doubly screwed.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been intending for quite some time to make a guide video on how to scout and defend against this, and that's something I'll totally get to when I have the time. So keep your eyes peeled for that. If this is a build you're having trouble with, I don't blame you. I've lost probably more games to this build than any other build. It can be super difficult to hold. However, It's very, very doable, especially if you know how to scout it. That's the first step to stopping this, is knowing what to look for and when to look for it. So you pretty much need to scout this in order to stop it. If it catches you by surprise, like it just did in this game, you're done for. Now, it looks like
scouting tools. Oh, excuse me, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, Team 1 is definitely going to take this, but we've got Team 2 not wanting to give up. Jostein Cena has pushed forward with his carrier, and he's just going to put what power he does have into weapons and try and kill as many units as possible.
He will get some damage done. It's not going to be enough. There's a bomber coming in here, which means that damage can be applied to the carrier, and it can't shoot back because the carriers don't have anti-air. But yeah, he's I guess not going to do the quick GG and give Descara the satisfaction of the quick ending game. He's going to make him sit through this.
Well, it doesn't bother me because I'm zoomed in getting some really, really sweet cinematic footage, which I do enjoy watching. This game is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, I just noticed something actually. If you can spot a production cruiser moving, I don't see any on the field right now. On this map, it's like their little propulsive technology was actually clearing away sand, and you can see tracks in the sand. Like if you look back at Jostein's base, you can see tracks where production cruisers cleared, blew away sand and revealed rocks underneath. It's pretty cool.
Oh, no way. Very, very cool. Oh yeah, I see what you mean. Like it's like tracks almost, but it looks like it was just blown down. The sand was blown away.
Yeah, and if you see them moving, you can kind of see the same thing. It's pretty neat. It's one of those details you never see when you're actually playing the game because you're too busy focusing on it.
Very true, but this is giving me an awesome opportunity to zoom right in on the carriers and get some really, really sweet combat. It never ceases to amaze me, the amount of detail in the models in this game.
Yeah. I did want to make a quick note on scouting tools, since you did mention that it's important to scout this build, which is absolutely true. A lot of players are a little afraid of losing their scouting units, whether it's a sand skimmer or a UAV, especially when you're playing against the Gaussian player, because the UAVs can be shot down by the production cruisers or by the base runners, and so it's like, oh man, I bought this thing, it cost 100 CUs, I don't want to just lose it, so I'm going to keep it away from the production cruiser. It's counterintuitive, but you want to get that UAV in, see what's going on with the production cruiser, see if it's just one or two, see where it's going, where it's coming from. If you can keep that UAV and get it back and see what's going around on the carrier, that's great, but you don't need it. You really need to see where the production cruiser is, or if you're fighting a coalition and so bond carrier player, you need to see what's coming out of the carrier. So feel free to lose the UAV. It's nice if you can preserve it, but really what that thing is for is getting information, and spending 100 CUs to get a little bit of information is well worth it.
I totally agree, and especially like against a double production cruiser build, what you want to look for is if they're producing sand skimmers out of it or not, and how many. Like if you see a second production cruiser hitting the field and there's only 2 sand skimmers on the field and the production cruisers are moving out, you can almost guarantee that it's either double production cruiser assault ships or double production cruiser assault railguns.
Either that or a poorly done double production cruiser or sand skimmer rush, right? Either way, you sort of know what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I don't know. I don't think you could do it poorly enough where you'll only have 2. I mean, who knows? I could be wrong, but I don't think there's really any reason for, if you're going for a sand skimmer rush, to only have 2 on the field by the time your second production cruiser drops. Typically anyway, that's what I've noticed, is you'll have one production cruiser start building sand skimmers while the other's in production.
Yep.
And then they'll be pumping out sand skimmers as they move across the map. Man, these bombs look so cool when they hit the carrier's deck. I got distracted from trying to talk about like legitimate things by just how awesome this game looks. Now I don't know why Dryson isn't GGing out of this at this point.
Yeah, he was just sitting his carrier there, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's just sitting here.
Really
I think he's mining again, actually. Yeah, he's got 1 salvager sitting here on CUs. Jostein Cena's carrier has been destroyed, and a couple of bombers are going to launch into the air, and Descara's carrier is coming up right beside Dryson, so this game is over. Descara is going to bring the pain with the double production cruiser rush and take round 1 for his team.
Good game.
Yeah, very good game. Well played from both sides. I think that Jostein, Cena, and Dryson could have held that off a lot better than they did if they just scouted it, which is kind of what we've been talking about a lot here. But that just comes with experience, really. You can't fault the players for lack of experience. I know there's been a ton of players that are new onto the scene lately, and they've been just basically throwing themselves into the teeth of multiplayer. Like, tons of new players joining the tournaments, joining the Artifact Cup, joining the Kharak Crusade, and just basically jumping right in. So that takes a lot of balls, and so I got to give props to these new players that just fearlessly jump into competitive games.
Yeah, this cup in particular saw a lot of new names, a lot of people who had only played multiplayer 2v2 or 3v3 games and never really got into the 1v1 Artifact Cup scene. A lot of new players joined this. So we had actually, I believe it was 6 teams, each of 2 players, which is really the size of one of the larger Artifact Cups in terms of the number of players that we got. So quite a few new players, and that's been good to see.
Yeah, and I think it was like a 5 or 6 hour tournament. Like, you guys played pretty much all day.
Oh, it was long. Yeah, it was quite long. Because the 2v2 games, sometimes they're over real quick if there's a rush, and other times they last a long, long time.
Yeah, absolutely, they do. So that'll bring to a close match 2 from round 1. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, smash that thumbs up, hit that subscribe, and let me know what you think in the comments. And once again, a big thank you to Majiir for joining me.
Thank you. It was great.
And I will have, once again, I'll have the link to Majiir's channel in the video description. Go check him out. And I will see you guys for match 3 of round 1 coming up next.